Climb to be free. Walk to feel alive. Rediscover happiness in the simple things. Smile. Make yourself at home. Discover the joy of the cold and of vertigo. Listen to the silence. Decipher the language of animals. Walk amidst thousand-year-old forests and the countless forms of life that live there. Travel through the city's underground. Appreciate the view from up high. Then enjoy its unique sights. Look at the horizon and wonder if there is more than meets the eye. Lose yourself in funiculars and labyrinth. Find yourself on a mysterious island. Be amazed by a different culture. Learn about ancient beliefs and traditions. Marvel in their colors and shapes. Wait for the calm of night. And yet, feel that you are never quite alone. Understand that home is wherever we want it to be. Climb to be free. Walk to feel alive. Rediscover happiness in the simple things. Smile. Make yourself at home. Discover the joy of the cold and of vertigo. Listen to the silence. Decipher the language of animals. Walk amidst thousand-year-old forests and the countless forms of life that live there. Travel through the city's underground. Appreciate the view from up high. Then enjoy its unique sights. Look at the horizon and wonder if there is more than meets the eye. Lose yourself in funiculars and labyrinth. Find yourself on a mysterious island. Be amazed by a different culture. Learn about ancient beliefs and traditions. Marvel in their colors and shapes. Wait for the calm of night. And yet, feel that you are never quite alone. Understand that home is wherever we want it to be. Climb to be free. Walk to feel alive. Rediscover happiness in the simple things. Smile. Make yourself at home. Discover the joy of the cold and of vertigo. Listen to the silence. Decipher the language of animals. Walk amidst thousand-year-old forests and the countless forms of life that live there. Travel through the city's underground. Appreciate the view from up high. Then enjoy its unique sights. Look at the horizon and wonder if there is more than meets the eye. Lose yourself in funiculars and labyrinth. Find yourself on a mysterious island. Be amazed by a different culture. Learn about ancient beliefs and traditions. Marvel in their colors and shapes. Wait for the calm of night. And yet, feel that you are never quite alone. Understand that home is wherever we want it to be. Climb to be free. Walk to feel alive. Rediscover happiness in the simple things. Smile. Make yourself at home. Discover the joy of the cold and of vertigo. Listen to the silence. Decipher the language of animals. Walk amidst thousand-year-old forests and the countless forms of life that live there. Travel through the city's underground. Appreciate the view from up high. Then enjoy its unique sights. Look at the horizon and wonder if there is more than meets the eye. Lose yourself in funiculars and labyrinth. Find yourself on a mysterious island. Be amazed by a different culture. Learn about ancient beliefs and traditions. Marvel in their colors and shapes. Wait for the calm of night. And yet, feel that you are never quite alone. Understand that home is wherever we want it to be.
Good morning and good evening to our friends from the ASEAN region, to our colleagues from the Singapore Technical Cooperation Directorate, to our government representatives with us today from Chile, as well as our distinguished panelists and guests. My name is Melissa Sanchez, and I'm responsible for managing the Triangular Cooperation Program with ASEAN countries in the Chilean International Cooperation Agency for Development, and I'll be serving as your moderator today. I have the pleasure to welcome you all to the Chile-ASEAN Future Perspectives Dialogue Series, sponsored by the Embassy of Chile in Singapore, the Center for International Studies of the Catholic University of Chile, as well as the Singapore Cooperation Program. As you are aware, in 2019, Chile was the first country in Latin America to be named as an ASEAN development partner. This status represents a milestone in Chile's foreign policy for the ASEAN region. It also provides an opportunity to reflect on new engagement perspectives that can open doors for designing a robust development agenda with ASEAN as an ASEAN development partner. Within this framework, the dialogue series organized by the embassies of Chile in the ASEAN countries in collaboration with the Center for International Studies of the Catholic University of Chile aims to open conversations between relevant regional actors with the objective of discussing new avenues to enhance Chilean foreign policy in the region of Southeast Asia. I myself have had the pleasure of coordinating the Chile Singapore Joint Training Program in our agency. As of 2013, we have jointly implemented an international course for ASEAN countries and CARICOM nations in the area of good governance and transparency in public policy. Over the past few years, I have witnessed how our partnership has evolved, how we have learned from one another, and how we have innovated in order to tackle new challenges in the area of good governance and public policy with the technical expertise of the Chilean Civil Service and the Singapore Civil Service College. Within this virtual space, today we welcome an opportunity to reflect, to listen, and exchange thoughts on the Chile-Singapore Joint Training Program. Also, to identify future areas of collaboration and how we can work to scale up our partnership to meet current development challenges in the ASEAN region. I encourage you to leave your questions for our distinguished panelists in the Q&A box below and hope for a lively discussion in the question and answer period towards the end of our webinar. Without further ado, allow me to kick off this webinar with opening remarks from Ms. Carolina Valdivia, the Undersecretary of Foreign Affairs of Chile.
Excellency Satvinder Singh, Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN for the Economic Community, distinguished ambassadors, academia, lecturers, dear friends. I am delighted to deliver some remarks in the inauguration of the cycle of dialogues organized by the Chilean embassies to the ASEAN countries in collaboration with the Center for International Studies of the Catholic University of Chile. This activity is a space that aims to open conversations between relevant actors in different areas of both regions to discuss new ways to enhancing Chilean policy towards the Southeast Asia region. For this purpose, the embassies of Chile to Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand will organize webinars on a wide range of topics such as community building, public policies, cooperation, history, regional situations, among others. Chile's relations with the ASEAN countries have increased in recent years. Historically, trade has been the prevailing link. Nevertheless, we seek to explore new spaces to share experiences and establish new networks to enrich this friendship. Considering the historical ties and friendship between our countries, Chile has a special commitment towards ASEAN and aims to foster greater integration. Chile has diplomatic relations with all ASEAN members and 6 resident missions, all with clear and ambitious bilateral agendas. Chile was the first Latin American country to become a formal development partner of ASEAN. This status represents a milestone in Chile's foreign policy towards this region, but also a challenge that invites us to reflect on new perspectives of engagement that open up areas of agenda-setting issues. As you know, ASEAN has 3 pillars: the political security community, the socio-cultural community, and the economic community. And Chile is aware that a comprehensive relationship must address each of these axes. On good governance, we have invited ASEAN member states and the General Secretariat to participate in a course that will address this topic in October this year to share the experience we have gained in this area. In addition, we expect to present in the coming weeks our cooperation project on financial intelligence analysis, which will allow us to generate further strategic exchange in this area. Given the similar development experiences of Chile and the ASEAN countries, it is possible to develop spaces for cooperation to overcome common problems. For example, with Indonesia, we are working closely on ocean protections and sustainable fisheries. With Malaysia, we are exploring cooperation in areas of innovation. And with the Philippines, we could work on public policy and addressing inequality. Likewise, with Singapore, we are working in green hydrogen and digital economies. With Thailand, we have a capacity building cooperation program for all ASEAN members. And with Vietnam, we have shared our expertise in superfood cultivation. Of course, there are new challenges that we should face together, such as climate change, a global priority that requires urgent and common action. On this issue, Chile has designed an ambitious agenda to transform its energy matrix, starting with solar energy and hydrogen fuel generation. For this project, we have campaigned with the ASEAN countries for a partnership in this endeavor. I would like to conclude highlighting that this series of online dialogues is the first step of its kind. We hope that the results of these conversations will lead to fruitful ideas for our foreign policy and a better mutual understanding. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Ms. Undersecretary. Next, we have opening remarks from His Excellency Mr. Ignacio Concha, Ambassador of Chile to Singapore.
Ahora sí. Okay, thank you, Clara. Ms. Carolina Valdivia, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Chile, Mr. the Secretary Deputy General of ASEAN, ambassadors of Chile to ASEAN countries, and the Executive Director of the Chilean Agency for International Cooperation and Development, Director General of the Technical Cooperation Directorate, Singapore Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Dear panelists from Chile, Singapore, and Cambodia, of course, including this country. Distinguished guests, dear all, good morning, very good morning from Singapore, and good evening in Chile. On behalf of the Embassy of Chile in Singapore, I welcome you to this webinar, jointly organized by this embassy, the Chilean Agency for International Cooperation for Development, and the Technical Cooperation Directorate, Singapore Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This event, as you may know, is part of a dialogue series organized by the embassies of Chile to ASEAN countries in a close collaboration with the Center for International Studies of the Catholic University of Chile. We have a long relationship with ASEAN countries, almost 50 years old. Examples of these close ties are Chile's accession to the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia in 2016, which led to Chile formally becoming a development partner with the ASEAN in 2019. This is the first such a partnership with a country from the American continent. I'm very proud of that. This latter status represents both a milestone in Chile's foreign policy toward this region, as well as a challenge that invites us to reaffirm and project our engagement with ASEAN, important for us. In this Singapore segment, we will discuss Chile-Singapore cooperation program milestones, in particular, the capacity building programs that we have jointly conducted for ASEAN member states. We also wish to highlight that Chile-Singapore cooperation program seeks to promote the transferring of best practices, skills, and knowledge in areas where we have advantages and field experience. Based on this, we focus our efforts in areas such as transparency in public policy for ASEAN and Central American countries. Today, our keynote speakers will introduce their respective cooperation agencies, their mission, and common programs towards ASEAN countries. Then, our four panelists will share with us their insights and experiences in working with these programs. Strengthening relations with ASEAN member states is a priority for my country. As a strong advocate of fair and free trade, Chile has positioned itself as a Latin America's gateway to the Asia-Pacific region, currently counting 6 free trade agreements with ASEAN members out of a world total of 26 bilateral and regional free trade agreements. It is also important to mention that we see the need to widen the scope of the cooperation in line with the ASEAN-Chile practical cooperation areas for the period of 2021-2025 to include post-COVID scenarios and the importance of reactivating domestic economies, as well as to discuss potential new areas of cooperation, such as clean energies, digital trade, mining, or disaster management and disaster risk reduction. Cooperation at educational or cultural levels is also relevant. In astronomy and in partnership with the Science Center of Singapore, we are organizing a 4-day seminar on astronomical observation in Chile, including light pollution, star hunting, and the role of women in astronomy. The seminar is specially dedicated and directed at school children and will be open to all ASEAN countries via streaming. So you are cordially invited to join us in this great and unique event. In line with our policies toward ASEAN, I am proud to announce that in their last week meeting, member states of the AMSTA, comprised by Australia, New Zealand, and ASEAN, welcome the will of Chile to access this free trade agreement. We thank AMSTA state member for the kind support and hereby reassure our commitment to be a relevant partner for ASEAN. Finally, I wish you all a very fruitful discussion. Bienvenidos to this webinar, and thank you all and have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Concha, for your remarks and reflection on the importance of Chile's alliance with the ASEAN region. And now, allow me to introduce our first keynote speaker, Mr. William Tan, Director General of the Technical Cooperation Directorate in the Singapore Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Melissa. Ambassador of Chile to Singapore, Your Excellency Ignacio Concha, Executive Director of Chilean International Cooperation Agency for Development, Mr. Christian Jara, distinguished speakers and participants. On behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Singapore, I would like to thank the Embassy of Chile for organizing this webinar and for inviting the Technical Cooperation Directorate to be a part of this event. I would also like to extend our deep appreciation to AGCID for the support and close cooperation on our joint training programs. Our deep appreciation too to the speakers and alumni who have taken time out to join us today, including Mr. Stokdarev, Consul General of the Kingdom of Cambodia to Ho Chi Minh City, who has agreed to share his insights as a participant of the 2018 Singapore-Chile Joint Training Program. Chile is a long-standing friend of Singapore and a close partner in key regional initiatives for economic integration. Singapore and Chile have extensive cooperation through the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, the Pacific Alliance Singapore Free Trade Agreement, and the Digital Economy Partnership Agreement between Singapore, Chile, and New Zealand. In fact, this is the first digital economy agreement that we had concluded and signed. While our collaboration with Chile does not stop there, it extends to other areas, including development cooperation. Singapore set up the Singapore Cooperation Program, or SCP in short, in 1992 as our way of giving back to the international community. The SCP is a platform for Singapore and our fellow participants from other developing countries to share experiences and best practices based on our respective national circumstances. We are pleased to join hands with Chile in 2013, and the Singapore-Chile Joint Training Program has since become one of Singapore's most consistent and long-standing capacity-building partnerships. As members of the Global South-South, we both recognize the importance of South-South cooperation in supporting the United Nations 2030 agenda. Our joint capacity-building programs started with a focus on ASEAN, but since then we have also expanded our partnership to include the Caribbean community in 2015. And both sides have continued to conduct programs together despite the challenges posed by COVID-19. On this note, I thought the theme of this webinar on a people-centered ASEAN community is very timely. COVID-19 has disrupted lives and livelihood as we know it. I do not need to go into the details as we all have been living through this pandemic and have been deeply affected by it. But as the public sector navigates these challenges, let us not lose sight of the main goal, that is the health, well-being, and livelihood of our people. There's much to be accomplished, and Singapore will continue to do what we can through capacity building for ASEAN and the region. We welcome Chile's increasing engagement, more recently now as an ASEAN development partner, and we look forward to strengthening our partnership in support of the development priorities of our region in the days ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Tan, for offering a reflection on the scope of Chile and Singapore's cooperation agenda. Allow me now to present our second keynote speaker, Mr. Cristian Jara, Executive Director of the Chilean International Cooperation Agency for Development.
Good morning to everyone. Good morning to our friends in ASEAN, and good evening to our colleagues in Chile. I'm really glad to participate in the Chile-ASEAN Dialogue Series hosted today by the Embassy of Chile in Singapore and our partner, the Singapore Cooperation Program. Thank you for providing this very important space to reflect on our development cooperation for ASEAN countries and how we can improve and innovate our strategic alliance with the government of Singapore. The Chilean International Cooperation Agency for Development, ACCID, was established 31 years ago and is responsible for coordinating the international development cooperation for our country. Chile has a dual role as both recipient and provider of international cooperation. Under our mandate, the agency manages foreign technical cooperation and engages in South-South and trilateral cooperation, whereby sharing Chile's successful development experiences with countries primarily in Latin America and the Caribbean, but also with a growing presence in the ASEAN region. Chile's development cooperation is rooted within the framework of South-South cooperation, which emphasizes the importance of development being demand-driven, providing mutual benefits and exchanging experiences and knowledge among peers. In terms of our relationship with Singapore, both our countries share a deep and ever-growing partnership marked by mutual respect and anchored in common values and principles. As you know, Singapore was our first development partner in the ASEAN region, and over the past 8 years, we have both managed to leverage our financial and human resources in order to design a successful third country training program, not only for the ASEAN members, but also later on for countries of the Caribbean. Since 2013, under the Singapore-Chile Joint Training Program, we have implemented our international course on transparency and good governance for ASEAN countries. The activity offers participants with an advanced level of understanding on the concept and approaches in the public management field and the capacity to apply them in concrete situations. Our key partners in delivering this important regional course has been the Chile Civil Service as well as the Civil Service College of Singapore. Both institutions are pioneers and have encouraged a fruitful technical and academic discussion on public policy development and its challenges. More importantly, the initiative has built a bridge between our regions to provide a comprehensive understanding of Singapore's and Chile's approach to governance and transparency and how they are translated to policies for implementation. With our counterparts in Singapore, we have managed to create a comprehensive program that focuses on public administrative and financial reform initiatives, as well as key frameworks on human resource management in the Singapore and Chile public sector. Over the course of the last 8 years, over 130 professionals from ASEAN countries have participated in our international course, highlighting the need to continue offering opportunities to exchange good practices in the promotion of transparency and good governance in public policy. For our agency, for ACSID, it is very important that we continue working to strengthen our strategic alliance with the Southeast Asian countries. As was already mentioned, in 2019, Chile was appointed as a new development partner of the ASEAN region, being the second country after Germany to attain this status. The political decision adopted by the ASEAN represents a valuable recognition of the Chile's unwavering and long-committed foreign policy towards the Southeast of Asia and its organization, like ASEAN. In this regard, I wish to affirm our commitment to continue to explore new opportunities for growth and innovation in order to meet our region's challenges. Our international development policy is completely aligned with the foreign policy of the government of Chile, aimed at addressing, among others, socioeconomic inequalities, health, welfare, climate change, and strengthening the global partnership for sustainable development. These issues, of course, are part of the sustainable development goals that are part from the 2030 agenda. To contribute to its achievement, these policies represent our Chilean cooperation strategy and highlight our relationship with the region and the multilateral agenda for development cooperation, including strengthening democracy and its institutions as a key of the Chile-Singapore Joint Training Program. I really sincerely hope that you enjoyed the presentation offered by our distinguished speakers. We hope this webinar offers not only a space to reflect upon the Chile-Singapore Triangular Cooperation Training Program, but also offers innovative ideas and how we can adapt it to the current reality and trends in cooperation, as well as outlining new areas for collaborations between Chile, Singapore, and of course, the ASEAN region. Thank you, and I wish to all the best during this course.
Thank you, Director Kara, for sharing with us the importance of AXI's strategic alliance with the Singapore Cooperation Program. Now, I would like to open our panel session, which offers a reflection on our joint international course in transparency and good governance in public policy for ASEAN countries. We will begin the panel by sharing experiences from both instructors in the course as well as trainees. First, on our panel, we have Mr. Kelvin Chai. Mr. Chai is Assistant Director in the International Department of the Singapore Civil Service College, where he manages the program for East Asia and other regions such as Latin America. He joined the CSC in 2008 and over the course of his career has designed, developed, and delivered learning and development programs for various international public sector organizations. Mr. Chai has also served as a trainer in numerous versions of our international course on transparency and good governance in public policy under the Chile Singapore Cooperation Program for ASEAN countries.
A very good morning to everyone. For this morning itself, I'm happy to be here to actually share a little bit more about my personal experience for joining the cooperation program, as well as being a designer of the program as well for the start of right from the start of this program. So thank you, Melissa, for the brief introduction. I'll just be pulling up the slides from the organizers, and then we will start the sharing. So a very brief introduction of myself. I'm Kelvin from the Civil Service College International, a unit within the Civil Service College of Singapore. All right, brief introduction about the college. We are the central training institutions for the Singapore Public Service, which focus on the capacity building and development in the area of public governance, public administration, and public sector leadership and management for the Singapore Public Service. So within the college itself, we also share the Singapore development experience in this mentioned area with our international audience who are interested in hearing from the Singapore story. So very happy to be here today to share with you briefly on the capacity building partnership between Singapore and Chile and highlighting some of our achievements as well as the learning experience. Next slide, please. So we'll first start off with the partnership journey, as well as a little bit about the achievement of our outreach through the program that is actually supported by both Ministry of Foreign Affairs Singapore and ASEAN. Next, please. So the Singapore-Chilean partnership on capacity building is made possible with strong support from both the government of Singapore and Chile through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Singapore and the Chilean International Cooperation Agency under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Chile, or ASEAN. Right. For the implementations, CSC is privileged to be one of the implementing partners alongside with the Chilean Civil Service. And of course, in 2021, this year, we also bring on board the University of Chile. Next, please. So on the capacity building partnership, the intent is really to share good practices in public sector management, focusing on transparency and good governance in public policy, both from the Chilean and the Singapore experience. So our journey started way back in 2013 when the first edition of the program was hosted in person in Singapore, which is a joint program that's under ASEAN and as well as the Singapore Cooperation Program administered by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Singapore. So the program is extended to participants from the ASEAN countries. And of course, the next key milestone was in 2015, where we actually ran the CARICON edition, which was held in Santiago in Chile. And that was actually same version of the program, but was extended to the participants from the CARICON community. And of course, with COVID situation happening globally, affecting international travel, where in-person interaction was not quite possible, all right, we need to look beyond the traditional delivery of in-person training and be creative in bringing capacity development to our participants. So in January 2021 this year, we actually launched the online edition of the program, bringing on board new partners, which is the University of Chile. And that's where we bring the Singapore and the Chilean experience to our CARICON participants. Next, please. So the program, the joint training program on transparency and good governance in public policy for both the ASEAN and the CARICOM community actually touches on similar area of focus from Singapore and Chilean to allow the participants to gain practitioner perspective and then explore possible adaptation from the experience of the two countries. So some of the key focus of the area of the program includes public governance, human capital development, public finance, particularly in the areas of procurement. And of course, increasingly with the complexity on public service delivery, the course also focuses on new emerging areas such as public service transformation and as well as public service delivery. So representatives from both Chile and Singapore are represented at both editions of the program as speakers and hosting of learning visits. So for Chile, we have speakers from the Chilean Civil Service, Chilean Council for Transparency, Directorate of Government, Procurement and Contracting of Chile, which is Chile Compra in short. And of course, from Singapore, we featured speakers from CSC and policymakers from various government agencies such as Auditor General's Office, the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau, CPIB in short, and as well as the Urban Redevelopment Authority, just to name a few of them. Like I shared earlier, in 2021, we brought the program online with a new partner coming on board, which is the University of Chile, contributing content from the academic perspective, which will enrich the content of the program. And of course, with CSC and the Chilean Civil Service contributing content from the perspective of the policymakers. So we both have the academic perspective as well as the practitioner perspective for the online version. So I'm happy to report that for the ASEAN edition of the program, we have actually organized 7 annual runs since 2013, and over 140 ASEAN leaders attended the program in Singapore. For the CARICOM version, the edition, which was started way back in 2015, we have organized 4 in-person runs and also 1 virtual run, which we have done this year, and over 90 CARICOM leaders benefited from the program. Next, please. Next, I will be sharing some pictures for both the edition of the program, which highlight the learning experience from our participants. Next. Next, please. Yeah. So as you can see from the picture, this is the version of the program that was hosted in Singapore and is actually for the ASEAN participants. So in picture, you can see the group photo that actually was taken with the class, as well as representative from both Singapore and Chile. And as well as we also have the Chilean speakers joining us in Singapore to deliver some of the sessions in CSC. And of course, together with the participants, both the Chilean speakers as well as the ASEAN participants, they also go beyond the classroom to go for learning visits to our Singapore agencies, as well as attended some of the dialogue and discussion between the Singapore agency and the policymakers. So later we'll have the next keynote speakers to share a little bit about his experience attending the program. Next, please. And this is the version that we actually hosted in Santiago, Chile. Yeah, we have actually our Singapore speakers going over to Santiago to deliver the training sessions. I'm privileged to be one of the few trainers who have actually facilitated some of the sessions in Chile. And of course, alongside with our colleagues from the Chilean Civil Service, we actually share both the experience with the participants, more from both Singapore and Chilean. And at the same time, that gives the opportunity for the participants to actually do mutual learning from both sides. Next, please. So apart from just lectures and presentation, we also have the participants engaged in discussion and group activities. So these pictures are taken pre-COVID, just in case if you look at why are people sitting quite close to each other. But this is way back in 2018 when we had the program in Santiago. So you can see that the participants are actually engaged in interactive activities with our trainers from both Singapore and Chile. And that's where they can also pen down some of the discussion on the note itself and also do some of the action planning. Next, please. Right, so at the end of the program, we will get the participants to actually share back what do they think would be some of the pointers that they can actually adapt back to their home context. And that's where they do a short sharing with their peers in the class and on areas that they think that from the learning from the program that they can actually adapt back home. So that this is just some pictures that the participants are doing the final day sharing at the end of towards the end of the program. Next, please. So this is the version that we have organized earlier this year. All right, we actually managed to bring the program online. So instead of just waiting for international travel to reopen, we decided that we should bring the experience to our participants. So that's where we have all the participants attending the program online, and then with a new partner on board, the University of Chile, as well as our long-standing partner, which is the Civil Service of Chile, and as well as we support from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Singapore and Exit. That's where we actually able to reach out to the CARICOM community. At the same time, still sharing the experience online and getting them to be comfortable with the training that's been delivered virtually. Right. So with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. And on this note itself, on behalf of the Civil Service College Singapore, I'd like to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Singapore as well as Exit for your strong support for the program all these years. And we look forward to more years ahead in terms of this collaboration. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chai, for offering a very thorough reflection on your personal experience as a trainer in our international course and its importance for the ASEAN region. Next, we have Mr. Ricardo Miranda Zuniga, who is a lawyer in the Chile National Directorate of Purchasing and Public Procurement. He holds a master's degree in public law from the Catholic University of Chile and has 15 years of professional experience in the area of administrative law, specifically in matters related to public procurement. He also participated as a trainer in the course on transparency and good governance in public policy for ASEAN countries.
Good morning and good evening and good night, everyone. Thank you, Melissa, for the presentation, and thank you very much for the invitation. Can you start with the presentation, please? Well, next slide, please. Well, first, my name is Ricardo Miranda. I am the head of the legal department of Chile Compra, which is the agency in charge of administering the public procurement system in Chile and the electronic platform for public procurement in Chile. I was invited to this event because I have participated in 3 occasions in the workshops organized by the cooperation agencies of Chile and Singapore. First, I participated in 2 workshops held in Santiago, Chile, during 2016 and 2017. And those workshops, the participants were from CARICOM. And then I participated in a workshop held in Singapore during 2018, in which the participants were 15 officials from ASEAN countries. In this workshop also participated as speakers, representatives from the Civil Service of Chile, the Council for Transparency of Chile, the Civil Service College of Singapore, and as well representatives from different agencies of Singapore. Next slides, please. Well, before explaining my experience in these workshops, I would like to explain why or what is the link between public procurement and these workshops. Maybe you are asking yourself, why did I talk about public procurement in these workshops? Considering that these workshops were focused in integrity, transparency, and good governance in public sector management. And the answer is that there is a direct link between these subjects, as I'm showing in the presentation. Public procurement represents 12% of GDP in OECD economies on average, and 29% of public spending. Actually, in accordance to the OECD, 57% of bribery cases are directly linked, related to public procurement processes. So, because of this, enforcing transparency in public procurement processes is very important if we want to tackle corruption in government activity. Next slide, please. Before explaining my experience in these workshops, I would like to present a brief summary about the main characteristics of the system of public procurement in Chile. In 2003, in Chile, a series of corruption scandals took place, and in the context of this political crisis, the government at the time, the opposition and the civil society agreed on a package of reforms for the modernization of government institutions. And one of the main reforms of this agenda was the modernization of the public procurement system. So in 2003, a new law on public procurement was enacted. And this law was very important because this law created the new institutions of the system. First, it created Chile Compra, which is the agency in charge of administering the electronic platform and the system, as I said. It created the registry of suppliers, and last but not least, it created a special court, the public procurement court, that is a key actor in this system. Next slide, please. Well, here we can see some figures that show us the dimension and the characteristics of the system. These are figures from 2020. Obviously, these figures has been altered during 2021 because of the pandemic. Next slide, please. But in order to understand how this system works, I would like to explain briefly the main principles that like this system. The first principle is free participation. As the ambassador explained at the beginning of this event, Chile is an open economy that has signed many free trade agreements. Actually, Chile has signed 16 free trade agreements with government procurement chapters. And in these chapters, in this government procurement chapter, Chile has committed itself to not discriminate foreign companies. So in Chile, in the public procurement system of Chile, all suppliers, regardless of their origin, nationality, or size, are treated under equal conditions. The second principle is equality and non-discrimination. And this principle means that set aside quotas or affirmative action measures that could favor certain groups are not allowed in our system, because as I explained, all suppliers are treated under the same conditions. And the third principle is transparency. And this principle means that all the procurement processes, all the stages of the procurement process are developed through an electronic platform, and all the relevant documents are available in this platform. Next slide, please. Well, now regarding my experience in the workshops that I have participated, I would say that it has been a very enriching experience for me, especially my participation in the workshop in Singapore in 2018, in October 2018. And well, for many reasons. First, because I had the opportunity to explain in this workshop the importance of implementing public procurement, an efficient and transparent public procurement system through an electronic platform. I hope that my presentation was very useful for the participants, considering that, as far as I know, some of the countries, ASEAN countries, are in the initial stage of implementing electronic platforms. So I hope that my presentation was very useful in this regard. On the second place, this experience was very enriching because I had the opportunity to learn about the institutions of Singapore, because I participated there as a speaker, but I managed to listen the experts from Singapore, and it was very, very interesting. There were very, very interesting presentations about public procurement, about control of corruption, about check and balance in public procurement, and about data analysis in public procurement. So it was very interesting because the institutions in Singapore are an excellent benchmark in terms of modernization of government. And finally, it was very interesting, very enriching, because I had the chance to meet colleagues from different countries that are culturally different than Chile, ASEAN countries, and this was really a very, very enriching experience. And well, because in these events, networking can be as important as attending the formal presentations. And for this reason, the ideal is that these events would be conducted in person and not online. Well, we know that that is a little bit difficult now, but in the future, I hope this event will be conducted in person. And well, my conclusion would be that I am very grateful of having participated in these events. And I hope that these events could still be conducted in the future, because it's a great chance, a great opportunity of networking and capacity building. So thank you very much for the opportunity of explaining my experience in these workshops.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miranda, for sharing with us your experience as a trainer in our course, and also for your overview on public procurement policy in Chile. Third, on our panel is Mr. Sok Darit, who was appointed as the Consul General of the Kingdom of Cambodia to Ho Chi Minh City in the Republic of Vietnam in 2019. Mr. Darit graduated from the Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam with a Bachelor of Arts in International Relations in 2008 and holds a Master of Arts in International Relations. He obtained his PhD in Philosophy and History from the Ho Chi Minh National Academy of Politics in 2016. Mr. Darit was also a trainee in the course on our international course on transparency and good governance in public policy under the framework of the Chile Singapore Joint Training Program.
Oh, very good morning and evening to all. Thank you, Melissa, for your introduction. Yes, Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to send my gratitude to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Singapore and Chile, especially Chile Embassy in Singapore and the Singapore Cooperation Program, SCP, for inviting me to join this meaningful webinar on Chile and Singapore partners in development cooperation, strengthening the public sector toward a people-centered in ASEAN community, and to share my viewpoint as a past participant of the program in Singapore in 2018. I highly evaluate the transparency and good governance in Public Policy in 2018, providing me valuable knowledge as well as sharing me Singapore's and Chile's development experience to developing countries, particularly Cambodia. Specifically, I have gained insight on Singapore and Chile approach to good governance and how they are translated to policy for implementation, as well as analyze the key consideration and approach of public policy development. Additionally, I have also learned from the experience in managing corruption to achieve clean and transparent governance. Among those, what I consider as the core for good governance in public policy are the principles of governance, including 1, leader is key; 2, reward for work, work for reward; 3, a step for everyone, opportunities for all; 4, anticipate change, stay relevant. I hope also been emphasized that human resource is one of the vital components of the effective public administration, which any government leader should be mastered. It obvious that the above training has brought me my revolution, which I have applied effectively in my work. Firstly, during my work in Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Cambodia, I have worked closely with Singapore Embassy in Phnom Penh to strengthen our bilateral relations, as well as enhance cooperation between Cambodia and the ASEAN countries. Secondly, as the current Consul General of Cambodia to Ho Chi Minh City, I always create meaningful opportunities for all of my officials and staff to acquire their talents and abilities. Besides, I have paid more attention to enhance our people-centered ASEAN community by working smartly and closely with local authorities and especially with other ASEAN Consul Generals to Ho Chi Minh City to deal with the citizen issues, promote education, foster trade and investment. Moreover, in order to increase the good practices in transparency, I usually listen to, engage, understand, and provide citizens easy access to public services, thanks to the advancement of the ICT. Ladies and gentlemen, I could be said that the training course I attended in 2018 is one of the best overseas programs. However, with the spirit, we can better the best. I would like to express some of the following recommendations for upcoming programs. The program should: 1, we design longer instead of 1 week. 2nd, create a group after the course so that the past participant can keep in touch. 3rd, include a study visit to Chile to observe and research more about our topics. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that Chile and Singapore will continue to contribute actively to ASEAN international cooperation in many fields, especially in human resource development. To me, education is the key, and it is become the first priority of my government policy, and it is the key in action for people-centered community to make the people live in peace, stability, development, and shared future. To conclude, we care, we share, we prosper. And I do believe that together we can. I wish you all good health, happiness, and great success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dedit, for sharing your thoughts as a trainee and how the course facilitated your personal growth and professional development. Finally, I wish to present Dr. Intan Munira Ramli, who will share in this panel her thoughts on new areas and trends in international cooperation in Southeast Asia. Dr. Ramlee is a policy fellow in the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, with a focus in its policy design department. Dr. Ramlee provides strategic linkages between the Economic Research Institute and requirements of policymakers in ASEAN and the East Asia region, enabling them to make more informed policy decisions. Previously, Dr. Ramlee served for more than 20 years in the government of Malaysia.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sanchez, for the kind introductions. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all of us need to take seriously the political debate around the world which could impact economic agenda. From these conversations, it is then the cooperation around all these issues is being developed and shaped. Nowadays, we see that political and security matters dominating the conduct of economic affairs, which potentially will damage all our relationship. Hence, it is important for inclusive and congenial political relations, and this brings the work of ours to make real and substantial contribution. Therefore, in reflecting, can we have the slides, please? Next. So we see that the cooperation allows sharing of best practices and lessons. A simple and structured approach makes it easy to explore new partnerships. It also supports wider change if it matches the partner country's needs and is integrated in wider reform efforts. Third, solutions that are developed in the South are often suitable and valuable for ASEAN member states, with huge potential to capitalize on those experiences. It also allows a thematic focus through the sub-programs and ability to align with regional strategies, having also the pivotal countries' comparative advantage in region, for example, Singapore, with their cultural proximity and capacity to develop solutions are quite adaptive to the context of the beneficiary countries. And of course, the ability to offer standardized and tailored training, follow up through mini projects, and sharing of costs on a case-to-case basis through dialogue. So these are all the observations I have looking at the current triangular cooperation that we have before today. So next. So with this triangular cooperation, it will successfully disseminate knowledge of what works and drive wider change. For example, the partnership with Chile on disaster risk reduction will encourage knowledge exchange and creation of a network of specialists at national and regional levels. It also contributes to building of trust and strong partnerships between countries, regions, and globally by creating solutions which well adapted to the context of ASEAN. So in discussing new ways to enhance Chilean policies, can I have next? Towards the Southeast Asia region, it is good to consider what people-centered ASEAN entails. So to some ASEAN economies, inclusive growth means increase in agricultural productivity and farmers' income. But here in digital age, as services become more and more dominant, the share of agriculture sectors are decreasing and more jobs availability are focusing in urban areas. So with the rapid urbanization, we need to seek enhancing links between the urban and the rural area and then enhance and expand remunerative employment. So with ASEAN economies made mostly by MSMEs, there should be a stronger focus on growing MSMEs and making sure that they become more mature and financial viable, so that it becomes it develops greater productivity and consumption for the economy. And this is where I think Chile will be able to share. Second, on the people empowerment, having good access to health, education, lifelong skills development. This is essential at the heart of people empowerment and remunerative employment. So investing in lifelong skills development, including continuing education and training disaster plan, improving quality of vocational training system would be crucial in ensuring inclusive growth in today's age. And lastly, in terms of leaving no one behind, and this is where good welfare system, in terms of adequate social assistance, protection, and equal access to basic social infrastructure, basic education and health services are important, and use of ICT and new technologies to be shared, because these are all the domestic issues at the heart of the ASEAN member states. So next. We also see that in the ASEAN Social Cultural Blueprint 2025, there are a set of actions or focus which could be considered by Chile, and this looking at bigger space and role for the youth, where there's a need to forge communal identity, greater networking, interaction, and sharing of knowledge and job opportunities among youth. Second, ICT and media, linking citizens through digital and traditional platform with customized content to reflect diversity, shared cultures, values, and beliefs. The third role will be parliamentarian in reducing legislative barriers for greater professional exchange, people-to-people, and digital connectivity. Fourth, private sector in using and promoting platforms provided by the private sector for the best practices on issues reflecting concerns and aspirations of the citizens. Public and private partnership in terms of the greater partnership between the local governments and stakeholders to develop and implement regional agenda. And lastly, the role of the ASEAN bodies, for example, to continue implementing existing measures to increase sense of ownership and capacity building among ASEAN citizens. So all this, next, will be somehow narrowed down into some priority areas of cooperation, which I've listed here. The trade investment, digital economy, MSMEs, digital and vocational education, public health, climate change, sustainable development, biodiversity, smart cities, connectivity, and initiatives for ASEAN economic integration. And lastly, in looking at the trend in focus for cooperation, this is next. This is basically where we see that requests from the governments around ASEAN issues related or training related to agriculture and climate change resilience. I note that Ambassador Concha already highlighted that in terms of looking at climate change, and also most importantly in how to deal with disaster relief. Energy related are most important as well, looking at, for example, the trend of countries now going into circular economy. The fourth will be basically digital economy in terms of harnessing digitalization in dealing with security of supply chain, or even dealing with recovery post-COVID. And lastly, the MSME inclusion for both public sectors, officials, and local stakeholders. And here, in conclusion, what I would say that Chile is well positioned to share all its experiences, being a successfully developing country, a country that has managed to deal with many natural disasters, having the ability to harness geothermal power, and probably a SME sector integrated into that of its neighbors. So the sharing of Chile through this process would be beneficial for ASEAN, for it resonates with the requirements of the ASEAN member states. With this, I would like to thank you, and I thank particularly the Embassy of Chile for the opportunity to speak, and to all the participants for your action. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramlee, for your reflection and offering us a comprehensive overview of the future of international cooperation in the ASEAN region and its challenges ahead. And now I am pleased to open our question and answer period. If you have a question or a comment for our speakers, please leave it in the Q&A chat box on your screens. I will begin the panel, the question session for our panelists, if you don't mind, and then we can go on to the questions that have been included in the chat box. So as our first question for our panelists, over the years, what do you think has been one of the primary contributions of the Chile Singapore Cooperation Program for ASEAN countries, not only in terms of capacity building, but also public policy formation? Would anyone like to volunteer? Ambassador Concha?
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting technical question. I think after listening to the Consul of Cambodia to Ho Chi Minh, I think as a recipient and the way he spoke about the benefit he took from this program, and of course it is my conclusion, taking all this presentation as a whole, we have to keep going in the interactions between the two agencies. This cooperation between Singapore and Chile in the frame of the Asian countries, you see, some other countries, it's not the case of Singapore, it's less developed countries, say Laos, is a small country, and they need to have access to best practices in transparency and good governance. And I think we have that. And we can join efforts with Singapore. Singapore is a great country in that regard. This civil service college, I think, is a great thing. We need to copy this country in that regard. We don't have that. And yeah, I think we have a knowledge and the best practices and skilled field experience as well to go to some other countries, say Philippines, and to train a civil service in terms of good governance and transparency. That's my answer. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Would somebody else like to compliment the ambassador on this question? Perhaps Kelvin, as one of the instructors in our numerous courses, you've both participated in the course that we offer for ASEAN, but also for CARICOM countries.
Thanks, Melissa. I think in response to that questions, I would think while we share the Singapore and the Chilean experience correctly, as what Ambassador has also pointed out, His Excellency has pointed out, there are different contexts within the ASEAN countries as well. So different countries have different challenges, different priorities, and I think through the training program or the capacity building interventions that we offered, I think one of the key messaging that we want to bring to our audience is always the part about adaptation. So it can be that I can share with you what Singapore has been doing, but you will know your context rather than us. So I don't think participants in that program should look to the trainers to say that the Singapore solutions or even the Chile solution would be the solution for the country. But a lot of the focus and emphasis is really about the adaptation, the contextualizations of such learning from the class. And that's where I think from such interactions at the program, it's important for us to convey the message that how would you see that the learning from the course would be able to be implemented back home. So I think that has always been the focus of the program so far, and I hope that this will still be one of the key focus of the program moving forward, because we have the resources from the and the experience from both the Chilean and the Singapore speakers, but more importantly is the contextualizing and the application part of it. So we hope that that will still remain as one of the key components. Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin. Would anybody else like to offer their thoughts on this particular question? Mr. Derek?
Yes, thank you again, Melissa. While we are fixing a lot of problems with the regional and international issue, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic. So I do have that the stronger cooperation between Singapore and Chile will be more stronger because it will be better for us, for ASEAN nation in continue to capacity building. Besides that, I think that because joining the course that organized by your corporation, it brings a lot of benefit to the human resource of the ASEAN nation. Actually, after the course is the practice, the implementation of the acknowledge is also very important. And the purpose of the Chile and Singapore cooperation, we also see about the strengthening the public sector and toward a people-centered ASEAN community. So it depends on the situation of each country. Also, it depends on the situation of the regional and global. So I hope that for the near future, for your Chile and Singapore cooperation for designation of the next course will be conducted from online or direct. However, in Singapore or somewhere, it should be continued. It should be continued. I think that, and it will be contributes much more important to us as to Cambodia as a developing country. We need more and more the course for to sharing, to learning, and to contributing to how to work to our people center as a ASEAN family. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Derek, for your input and your also the reflection on your personal experience as an alumni of our international courses. If I move on to the question and answer chat box, the first question actually is speaking about the impact of our courses. And as a few panelists mentioned, more than 130, maybe 140 public servants have participated in our training courses from ASEAN countries. And so I think one of the major challenges is always how to measure the impact of our projects and of our activities. And I see that also in the chat box, the ambassador of Chile to Malaysia and Brunei also had a great suggestion on possibly being able to organize virtual meetings between alumni in those various countries that could possibly be sponsored by the embassies of Chile in ASEAN. So I think that's also a great suggestion. Calvin, perhaps you can share with us how the Civil Service College goes about measuring the impact of these types of activities, and if there is already an existing network that alumni can tap into.
All right, thank you, Melissa. I think this is a million-dollar question that we always ask, especially in the view of capacity building, that how do you measure the impact of the learning interventions or even the capacity building interventions that has been going on. I guess one of the possibility that at the college when we are doing it for the international audience would be actually if they have brought to the class particular projects that they are actually currently working on, then one of the approach would be at the end of the whole training interventions, we would ask them to perhaps share with us the applications of knowledge learned during the course, and then into part of their projects that they have brought to the program. And of course, through the program itself, we may also be able to match the project with relevant experts within the Singapore system or whether be with the Chilean system. And then that's where we can share more specific ideas and possible explore some of the solutions. And then after which, of course, then the other part will be more relying on the post-program follow-up, whereby they may do the project implementations and then let us know how the learning from the course has been for them in terms of helping them deriving the solutions and implementation process. But that of course means that there would be more resource to be committed in terms of such monitoring process that will be done post-program. That is one way that we have been doing at the College for International Programs that requires them to bring in a project. But of course, if it's post-training per se, then I must recognize to say that the college has not really gone beyond what we usually do as a feedback for the program. At the end of the workshops, to actually talk about how do they learn from the program and how do they actually feel that the learning from program can be applied back at the home context. So that is something which we probably would need to explore. Yeah. So that could be something that we might want to explore, thinking a bit more. If let's say we are looking at how to measure the learning impact from training programs. On the part about the ASEAN network, the Singapore is part of the ASEAN Public Service Training Institution Network. I think that's one of the network that has been established among the ASEAN members, and we do have some events that has been convened through the network itself, and then of course the chairmanship of the network is a rotating chairmanship. So that could be another possible platform to look at how can we bring together the ASEAN members in terms of looking at capacity building. So that's one of the network that's currently being formalized. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin, for that very thorough answer. I also wanted to mention that in AgSeed, we also have a scholarship alumni network, and perhaps we can also use that network to also bring together participants from the ASEAN courses. As you know, we also have courses with other partners in ASEAN. So it would be great to pool those resources together and use the networks that you have in Singapore and the networks that we have within our own agency to continue to build bridges and create these networks and connectivity with the more than 130 participants that have followed through with our courses. So that's also a great idea. And I totally agree that the monitoring question in terms of impact is such a large $1 million question. But I feel that with these new avenues of being able to connect virtually, perhaps starting off with a pilot project, as Ambassador Rojas also mentioned in the chat box, perhaps we'll be able to create a pilot project from one of our courses. That's also a wonderful idea, and we have done that with other partners also. I think that this space today has set in motion the opportunity to scale up our partnership and to also look for new avenues of cooperation, as Dr. Ramlee also presented in her presentation. Disaster risk reduction is an area where Chile is highly requested in terms of international cooperation, resilience, and climate change obviously also is another big issue. And another question that I wanted to follow up was perhaps for Ambassador Concha, and where do you see the future of our relationship with Singapore, and what areas do you feel that we could work together in based on presentation by Dr. Ramli.
Well, Melissa, I think the relationship between Chile and ASEAN countries is mature enough. And if you think we established diplomatic relations with these countries almost 50 years ago. In that regard, I think we came to great lengths. Singapore is becoming a state member of the Pacific Alliance. We are a step closer to ASEAN countries as well, thanks to the UNCTAD. And all of this is related to, say, the economic or the trade side of the relations. And I think, as I said before, the relationship is mature enough to go a step or maybe two steps further in terms of widening the scope and including to these fruitful relationship new areas of cooperation. As we mentioned before, we are working in astronomy, observation astronomy, which is very important in my country. 70% of the astronomical observation takes place in Chile. The best and the most state-of-the-art telescopics are based in Chile. So we are able to cooperate in more areas with ASEAN countries. And of course, it is important to widen the scope to see what is going on after the COVID pandemic, because my guessing, or many people guess, is that the economies will be in problems. So we have to address that in a common approach. Perhaps in incrementing and promoting more trade, more business, more investment. In that regard is important. But also, this is my point, Elisa, I think we have to, of course, take in account circular economy. It is important. That's the new world. The new world is, well, it's here, new world, because of the climate change. And we are working very hard in clean energies. The green hydrogen is becoming a reality in my country quite soon. We have a time frame of 10 years to becoming a green hydrogen producer. And for 2040, we will be one of the largest exporters of these green fuel to the world. So I think as a group of countries, ASEAN plus Chile, we have to address that. Climate change is one of the greatest challenges humankind is facing in a very short period of time. And I think it's the time for us to cooperate, work together in addressing this. And of course, this new world is digital. And of course, we have to move on to digital economy, digital trade, new business is digital. And thanks of the deep agreement between Chile, Singapore, and New Zealand, we are working on that. On top of this, my country is working in the line of an optical cable across the Pacific. This cable will link the Latin American countries with this part of the Pacific Ocean. That is going to be a great step in putting these countries together, along with the cybersecurity agreement we are negotiating with Singapore government, plus the optical cable and the DIPA agreement. I think this is very important. It's a cornerstone, a milestone in the relations with my country and ASEAN countries, Singapore in particular. On top of that, another area of cooperation, I see a potential area of cooperation between Singapore and Chile is aging. People live longer lives and better lives, and they demand as an old people new services from us. And I think I'm persuaded we have many things to share, and that we can go through these cooperation agencies to work together in terms of how we take care of our aging population. We are working already on that topic. We are about to sign a memorandum of understanding on aging. I think, as I said before, we need to open the scope to put more ingredients on these relations. And why not, using Singapore as a springboard, we can go to other countries, not only with trade or digital trade, but also with circular economy. And of course, I think it's important to keep going with the good governance and transparency for civil servants. Corruption is a cancer for the public service, and that we have to address the problem. So, Melissa, I conclude with this because maybe someone wants to make some remarks. Thank you very much, Melissa.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Concha, for that very thorough answer, and in light of future possibilities and opportunities for both of our countries. I also wanted to give the floor to Dr. Ramli, who also had a comment regarding the impact question that we were speaking about earlier. Dr. Ramli?
Thank you, Lisa. Just on the impact, what Kevin was saying, that it's $1 million question kind of thing. At the end of the day, it's very difficult to actually get the sense of impact. But normally what we do, for example, area itself, we have a department that is for capacity building, although our capacity building department is basically tailored towards fulfilling whatever the civil sectors would actually require in order to implement particular commitments and agreements, or even looking and understanding kind of commitments in those agreements. For example, we do training for RCEP, right? Which is a Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. So therefore, we have questions or requests from the governments of in ASEAN in terms of what kind of commitments, what will happen to us, and how do we actually implement. So this is where we get a sense of impact in terms of getting them in order to be able to come up with the document to ratify at the end of the day. So those are one of the ways to actually measure in terms of the understanding, and at the end of the day, delivering enough the prerequisite requirement in the agreement. So that's one example. And also another way of doing a kind of measurement of impact also in looking at the kind of reform efforts. For example, we want a certain country, like we want to see a certain country having transparency, and or even I see transparency is quite highly mentioned in the chat box, right? So this is where maybe we work. It requires a lot of work, of course. It requires working along with not just the capacity building person, but also people that is actually attending in terms of coming up at the end of the day, a kind of document that would actually somehow indicate that that reform is coming. Because it's just not something that is going to finish on the 2-day or the 2 weeks training, but it will actually be culminated into a good document that at the end of the day will be utilized by the government. And that is, I think, the highest achievement of a trainer. That is basically my sharing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramli, and I'm also like to thank the rest of our panelists for participating in our question and answer period. It was a very lively discussion, and there were a lot of comments posted on the Q&A box, so that's always a very, very good sign. And now we will be coming to the closing remarks of our webinar, and I welcome once again Ambassador Concha.
Thank you, Melissa. Well, this webinar is coming to an end. I acknowledge the high level of the presentations and discussions. I'm convinced that we have reached the aim of providing an opportunity to assess the progress achieved during this year, and look forward to new challenges. It became clear not only the synergies between both agencies, but also they have common goals like countries, you know. And finally, I'm pleased, really pleased, to announce that both cooperation agencies are in the final steps to sign a memorandum of understanding to facilitate the exchanges and cooperations in the Chile Singapore Cooperation Program. We look forward to signing this small memorandum of understanding in the near future. These now facilitate collaborative activities that are mutually beneficial for both agencies, particularly towards ASEAN countries. And please, this is a personal note, do not hesitate to contact us for any additional information you may need regarding to this webinar. I think it's very important to keep going with this. Finally, I would like to thank the institution who have been working with this, organizing this great event. In particular, the keynote speakers, the panelists, and of course, Melissa as a moderator. It's been a pleasure being here with you today, and thank you all.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your closing remarks and for summing up key takeaways of our webinar today. I myself would like to thank our distinguished panelists and government representatives for highlighting the importance of the strategic alliance between Chile and Singapore, as well as its role in promoting spaces to share good practices, knowledge, experiences in the area of public policy and transparency. This webinar has offered key takeaways on how to scale up our partnership, how to innovate, and how to also think outside the box. I would also like to thank the organizers of this event, the Embassy of Chile in Singapore, as well as the Singapore Cooperation Program and the Catholic University of Chile. I wish you all a wonderful day and a good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Walk to feel alive. Rediscover happiness in the simple things. Smile. Make yourself at home. Discover the joy of the cold and of vertigo. Listen to the silence. Decipher the language of animals. Walk amidst thousand-year-old forests and the countless forms of life that live there. Travel through the city's underground. Appreciate the view from up high. Then enjoy its unique sights. Look at the horizon and wonder if there is more than meets the eye. Lose yourself in funiculars and labyrinth. Find yourself on a mysterious island. Be amazed by a different culture. Learn about ancient beliefs and traditions. Marvel in their colors and shapes. Wait for the calm of night. And yet, feel that you are never quite alone. Understand that home is wherever we want it to be. Climb to be free. Walk to feel alive. Rediscover happiness in the simple things. Smile. Make yourself at home. Discover the joy of the cold and of vertigo. Listen to the silence. Decipher the language of animals. Walk amidst thousand-year-old forests and the countless forms of life that live there. Travel through the city's underground. Appreciate the view from up high. Then enjoy its unique sights. Look at the horizon and wonder if there is more than meets the eye. Lose yourself in funiculars and labyrinth. Find yourself on a mysterious island. Be amazed by a different culture. Learn about ancient beliefs and traditions. Marvel in their colors and shapes. Wait for the calm of night. And yet, feel that you are never quite alone. Understand that home is wherever we want it to be.